you?
Good morning, good morning. So tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys do.
Our research is based on breakthrough research that was done in the 90s showing that the vast majority of skin abnormalities that we see with skin aging and skin diseases is actually driven by two major factors: a disrupted stratum corneum barrier and then the chronic inflammation that triggers. We found that there were 7 pathways of inflammation in the skin, and unfortunately things like antioxidants only block 2 of those 7 pathways. In addition, we found to repair that barrier, we had to optimize 5 different pathways there. So it made it very difficult as far as finding synthetics that we could actually work on that. And so we went to the herbal arena, because with herbs you get not only the specific active anti-inflammatory effect or anti-proliferative or antimicrobial effect, but you will also get an entourage effect that improves stability, produces synergism, and improves the safety of the active ingredients. And so we have done a lot of work in the area of herbal medicine and found that in fact that many of our formulations, actually 10, have beaten prescription gold standard products in double-blind prospective controlled clinical trials using the finished product. And no other cosmetic company can make that claim. There were 2 other companies that tested against one. We've taken on 10 gold standards and beaten them all in efficacy and safety.
Interesting.
And our most recent was last October against an acne drug, the clindamycin benzoyl peroxide combination, which has been shown to be not statistically different from the clindamycin tretinoin combo, and yet we were statistically significant in 1 day in superiority, and by 6 days statistically superior. So faster, stronger, more effective, and yet 78% of the patients preferred our formulation using we did 6 herbs combined with 2 over-the-counter FDA acne monograph drugs, but we manipulated those ingredients to make them much more effective.
Wow.
So we've shown that herbal medicine has a great future, and we do actually have ongoing research now in 3 continents going as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, you know, I think we're going through a trend or an evolution, I should call it, where we've been deeply entrenched in synthetic medications, lab created products and chemicals. And I mean, I can speak for myself. You know, I have 3 young kids, and my wife is very focused on the safety of many of these devices. I mean, efficacy is one thing, but even just the basic safety of some of these preservatives and chemicals that are in our products that we use every day. What herbal treatments do you think are most successful in your skincare products?
The first one was our anti-aging, where we took on prescription Renova, 0.05% with its lactic acid, and we were twice as good in dermal thickening, and we had no irritation. So we exploded the myth that you have to have pain to induce gain. We also then have this the acne one that I just mentioned. We also have the first true multivitamin that modulates all 24 vitamins and that contains those and the mechanisms to induce that, the further synthesis for the entire epidermis, from stratum corneum down to basement membrane zone. Because when we're asking the skin to rejuvenate, we need to have the nutritional background to be able to do that. And we found in doing that concept that in fact nutrition is vital. In 1 week, we had highly statistical resolution of fine wrinkles within 1 week. By 8 weeks, we had a 57% decrease in fine wrinkles and 46% decrease in fine lines, 32% decrease in coarse wrinkles, which, as you know, in anti-aging medicine, it's unusual to see anything in the dermis until 8 to 16 weeks.
Right.
But we saw it very early on in the stage. So indicates again that the nutrition is important. And incidentally, those highly statistical superiority results, one was against a growth factor combination, another was against an antioxidant combination with high amount of vitamin C and E and other antioxidants, and we're clearly superior. Matter of fact, the dermatology investigator who's gotten multiple drugs approved through the FDA said this was the most powerful single product he'd ever seen.
Really? Wow, that's
performing.
fascinating. I mean, I think one thing that strikes me is that the amount of research and effort into looking at before and after outcomes and efficacy is really commendable because, you know, there's so many skincare products out there. And, you know, from a plastic surgeon standpoint, when you look at a before and after photo, you can immediately tell which one had the lighting, you know, changed, or which one may have even been altered. And it can be very deceiving to the consumer because they're seeing a before and after photo, and it looks better, but that doesn't necessarily mean the product works better. And you're talking about, you know, specific percentages and specific improvements. What I'd like to know is, let's say I want to get a patient on your regimen. Is there a basic package or a basic array of products that you would recommend to start on? Or is it specific to a certain concern, or what's your suggestion as far as that goes?
As a general rule, we need to use the barrier repairing anti-inflammatory renewals as your base. You need to be using sunscreens that are anti-inflammatory, don't damage the barrier, don't have irritation with them, and are anti-pollution, and we have both of those. In addition, we need to provide the nutritional background with the serum product, but then the other adjustments depend on what the underlying problem is. Keep in mind, patients come to us skincare professionals, they have expected us to be a clearinghouse. What's safe and what's effective? Just like the decisions we make for the prescription products or the devices that we use. They all have safety and efficacy, and yet in cosmeceuticals that's not required.
Right.
And yet I believe we have a moral ethical obligation to in fact prove that with safety and efficacy studies using the finished product. And that's very important that we do that. So for example, a person who has hyperpigmentation, we have a product that is an intensive nourishing cream, which is focused more on the hyperpigmentation. If they have rosacea, we have a product that is a little bit more selective for that. So it depends on what we're trying to accomplish, but at the end of the day, all these products are focused on reducing inflammation, optimizing barrier function, but also killing pre-malignant cells. I mean, my major driver for this, when I moved into the high desert area where I was the only dermatologist for 30,000 square miles for 32 years, was I saw so many young people with cancer. And so it was really focusing on what was skin cancer, what drove skin cancer, and that's where our initial research began. It was during our pre-cancer studies that then patients would come back 6 to 12 months later and say, hey, I need more wrinkle cream. And so then we thought, okay, Dr. Kligman developed Retin-A responding to patients' concerns about, oh, my wrinkles are getting better when you're treating my acne. So we went ahead and looked at it, and sure enough, we ended up being twice as good as the gold standard in reversing wrinkling. But the main strategy was to make that skin as healthy as possible to prevent the pre-cancer formation and skin cancers.
It's a great point because, you know, many patients don't use sunscreen. We're becoming more and more susceptible to sun damage, skin cancers, and being proactive and preventative in those areas, and really making sure that the products are dealing with those. And I think what you said also about holding ourselves ethically accountable, because in these areas, you know, the vitamins and supplements, patients don't know this, but there's just no regulation on it. So I think it's very important that we hold ourselves to that standard. Yeah. So.
Last year, a study was done where 40% of the cosmetics claiming retinol had no measurable retinol effect.
Wow.
Okay. So the other thing that's important about the barrier, though, remember, sunscreens bind to the skin barrier. So if that skin barrier is not intact, then the sunscreen ingredients are absorbed internally. Okay, they don't stay out in the layer of the skin. So barrier is very important. It's also in 2016 been shown that airborne pollution actually triggers pathway that activates skin cancer more than twice as bad as ultraviolet light. So we have to take into account we need that intact barrier to keep out the pollutants as well as reduce the ultraviolet light.
Well, I've learned a lot from you, Dr. Thornfeldt. So thank you so much for being with us. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you so much for taking the time for me today.